Do you have difficulty in homeschooling one of your children? Do you find that maybe the child lacks the motivation to get through their assignments on their own, and you're just sick and tired of the constant nagging that you have to go through in order to really get them through the assignments that they have each day? If so, today on our question and answer session, we're going to be answering that question of how do we motivate our children to get through their daily assignments? In today's question and answer session, we're going to be answering a question that we received from one of our Facebook followers. And they wrote in, I have a child who I homeschool. She tends to drag along, making schoolwork that could be done in a half an hour, sometimes take longer than an hour. How can I get her to speed up and use her time wisely? I think we've all had that experience where we have a child that we're trying to get through an exercise that should take 15 minutes and they can drag it out to a half an hour, maybe even an hour, or sometimes they just don't get through it at all because they just don't want to move ahead with that exercise. And there could be a difference between where this just might be a bad day and they're just not really moving along. But what we want to address is, what if the child is consistently doing this? Because if that's the case, this can really sort of break the parent's spirit and put them in a position where they say, I just want to give up because I can't do it. So the first thing that we want to do is to address what are some of the reasons why the child might be reluctant to learn at this stage. And before we even get into what some of those reasons are, we definitely want to make sure that we're not falling down the path of trying to label our child as, they're not really a good learner, or they don't have the mental capacity, or maybe they have one of those acronyms that requires pharmaceutical drugs. We don't want to go down that path. All children love to learn. They want to learn, and they're natural learners. We don't want to take the easy way out and start making excuses for ourselves or our child as to why this just isn't going to work. Also, at the end of the day, you have to recognize that there's going to be difficulties and there's going to be bad days, and you have to put those into context and not have unrealistic expectations that homeschooling is going to be a breeze because I read this blog on the internet and this woman, she said how her kids just do everything that she ever asks, because that's just not reality. So the first reason why the child might not really be into it is because they're bored with the subject matter. If you went to public school, which I went to public school, there were plenty of subjects that I thought the class was absolutely miserable because I just didn't want to be studying that thing at that point in time. Second is that you might have a child that is more resistant to learning what they're being told to learn as opposed to the subjects that they have interest in and want to learn on their own. A third is that it's possible that you're doing way too much book work. You should take a step back, look at all of the subjects that you're teaching, and if it's just you and the child in front of a book, especially at those early ages, that probably isn't going to work very well. Too much book work is really going to kill the child's motivation, and they're easily going to get bored. Remember that they're kids and they don't always want to sit in front of a book, especially a math book or a science book, or writing exercises, as opposed to climbing up a tree or breaking things, building things, deconstructing things. They're kids, they want to go out and play and have fun. Fourth is that there may be too many distractions in the environment, and this could come before your schooling, after your schooling, or during the schooling. So for example, if you're one of those people that puts your child in front of the television all day and they're exposed to all of this different media and the things are flashing in and out at a high speed rate, and then you try to sit them in front of a book, their mind is gauged now at moving at 1,000,000 miles per hour, and you're like, hey, slow down. The same thing could be said for video games. Also, if you have other children in the house and you have one child, for example, at the kitchen table doing some homeschooling work, but you're allowing all of the other children to run around them in circles and play games and do all sorts of things, this is going to be a huge distraction for your child, and obviously they're going to be very, very much entertained with what their brother or sister are doing. And so therefore it would be really foolish to do what a lot of parents probably do when they yell at that child and say, don't pay attention to your sister, stop looking at what your brother's doing, pay attention to your work. That's not how a kid works. Kids are obviously going to be looking at what their brother or sister is doing. So instead of trying to get them to be this soldier mentality of yes sir and do everything that you tell them to do, remove the distractions from the environment to the best of your ability so that you put them in a position to succeed. One of the first things that you can do to address some of these issues and increase some motivation is to look at some timing issues. Again, one of the beauties of homeschooling is that you can do what works for you. And so some children, they might be better learners at an earlier part of the day or in the mid-afternoon or later on at night. Look at what works for them and try to study with them at the times that they seem to be the most productive. On top of that, don't overdo it. Sometimes you find parents are like, oh, we're going to read for like an hour. What's your child's attention span? If it's only 10 minutes, it's better for you to do 10 minutes a day consistently every day. You're going to skyrocket past so many other people, as opposed to saying, hey, we're going to do an hour a day, making the process miserable for yourself, miserable for your child. Everybody hates it, and nothing gets done. You might want to get a clock that has a timer and set 15 to 20 minutes for each lesson. We're just going to do short, quick lessons to the point, learn something for the day, and move on. This doesn't give enough time for the child to get bored and their mind to start to wander. There's two things there. First and foremost is identifying what are the other types of activities that the child likes to do that you could turn into a learning exercise. And second is creating variety in your daily schedule so that you're implementing some of these subjects in there so that the child does have things to look forward to throughout his studies throughout the day. Third thing that I would suggest is you want to identify your child's preferred learning method. And what I mean by that is not everybody is a book learner. Not everybody is going to best learn through reading. Sometimes people are going to learn well through hearing. So you might want to read out a lesson to your child and have them repeat back to you, for example, what they understood or the important facts that you want them to have memorized. So you might have a child that wants to move around or do hands-on work as they're learning, and that's how they best understand things. And even as I'm recording this, I'm thinking about how about an hour ago, my son was trying to memorize some things with his mother, and I came into the kitchen and I found that my son is repeating out what he has to memorize to my wife as he's running around the island in the kitchen. And so it worked, Before he wouldn't really pay attention, but he was having fun running around in circles in the kitchen while he's reciting all of the things that he needs to have memorized. The point is that you don't want to be stiff in your teaching method or in your homeschooling experience. If the child learns better in a certain way, allow them to excel learning through those different mediums. The fourth thing is that you might want to look at the curriculum that you're using. Don't be so stubborn that, well, I bought this curriculum, it cost me so much money, and all of the reviews on Amazon and the homeschooling forums are raving about this curriculum and how it worked for them. That's fine, it worked for them. Maybe it's not working for you and your child. Don't be afraid to resell something or just straight up throw it in the trash. Number 5 is to get as much play in throughout the day as possible. There's studies talking about how longer recesses have a positive impact on the children in these institutionalized schools, whatever that may be. But at the end of the day, it's just healthy for kids to run around and be kids. And so let the kids play indoors, have recess time or whatever you want to call it. Let the kids run around and play outside if you have access to those sort of things. Introduce play-based learning, such as different games that might assist them in learning the subjects that they need to learn, but try to make it as fun as possible in many different ways. Last is just a reminder of advice that homeschooling can be difficult, and you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, and sometimes you might have a bad week. And whatever happens, don't give up. Continue to try to push forward. And even if you have to decrease the level of the lessons that you're doing each day, it's better to be consistent over a long period of time than trying to force feed too much in a short period of time. And if you do receive pushback from your child in any one of the subjects that you're trying to get through, always have a backup to redirect them to so that you continue throughout your day and you don't give the child the feeling of they're victorious and they've kind of shut everything down, and if they keep that pattern up, they don't have to do anything. Thanks for stopping by and checking out our question and answer session for Ebby Homeschools 2. Homeschooling can be difficult, and we know it can seem overwhelming for those parents out there, especially when the children don't seem to want to cooperate and it's very difficult to motivate them. But if you keep pushing forward over time, eventually we hope that you'll see some success. Again, every Friday we're having our question and answer session, so if you have any questions that you would like for us to answer, please leave those down in the comment section below. Also, if you've had any experiences with your children and difficulties in motivating them, if you have any comments that you could put down in the comment section below, any advice that you might have that might be beneficial to other parents, please do that. You can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.